Jesus answered and said something to an inanimate object, right? There was a fig tree that was not producing figs, and Jesus spoke to that tree. Now, I've always said this, and I still say it because I still believe it. If Jesus spoke to a tree, I know I can speak to my knee. Come on, somebody. If Jesus spoke to a tree, then I know I can speak. Come on now. I can speak to my knee. Let's go a little deeper. I can speak to my kidney, right? I can speak to, let's go a little further, my liver. I can speak to a headache. I can speak to it. We see Jesus giving us that example there in Mark 11. Let's read it again. Mark 11, verse 14, verse 14. And Jesus answered and said unto it, he spoke to it. Now, there's another key there. We notice in this operation, in this fight of faith, we're not just going to talk about things, we're speaking to things. See, in this fight of faith, when I'm fighting my fight of faith, whether it's for a long life, to receive or the manifestation of healing, finances, marital relationship solutions, I'm not just going to talk about it, I'm going to talk to it. We're preaching, right? I'm not just going to talk about it, I'm going to talk to it. Listen what Jesus says. Mark 11, verse 14, and Jesus answered. Who did he answer? He said unto it, the fig tree, right? He says, no man eat fruit of thee hereafter forever. So Jesus commanded that fig tree, don't you bring forth any fruit anymore, right? So now I give you a testimony. I remember years and years ago, a friend of mine, oh man, we were young guys, real young at that time. And we were working in this glass warehouse, right? And this guy, something happened, a sheet of glass broke in half. I think he was pushing it on a cart. It was a tall sheet of glass, and I think he was pushing it on one of the carts in the warehouse. Something happened, the glass broke, and I think it split the man's head. Not split it open, but it did split it open. It cut his head real bad, right? So and we could see from a distance, people were running, trying to help the guy, and blood was just shooting out of the guy's head. Blood was just coming out of his head. Well, my friend at the time, Pastor, some of you may know his name, Pastor Pastor James Berg Jr., right? And me and him we were good, close friends at that time, man. And we were working at that same place. And I remember early that morning we had met and we said, man, God gonna use us this morning. Oh man, God, that was such a long time ago. And I remember me and him had that conversation, said, man, God gonna use us this morning, because we would pray together and worship together some mornings at the plant, right? Well, long story short, I'm in another part, but I could see all this commotion going on. And my friend James, he was in that area over there. Long story short, they took the guy whose head had been cut open by the glass. They rushed him upstairs, and all the managers, the supervisors was up there they called the ambulance and stuff, right? And they were trying to stop the bleeding, trying to do this and that. And my friend James said, he said, this is the time. It's time for me to act on the word of God. So he said nervously, he was nervous and kind of shaking, but he went up them stairs where all the supervisors and managers were at, and they were surrounding this guy that was bleeding. The blood was still popping and shooting out of his head, right?